Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chris and Andre Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the Big Rant. Last week, well, I should say the one we published most recently from like 3 weeks ago was on politics. And thanks to some leakage and some bad decisions by some people in some very high places, we're back on politics again this week. As you may have guessed, the topic of discussion is the leak from the Supreme Court of the United States regarding their what seems to be inevitable overturning or overruling of Roe v. Wade and was it Casey versus Planned Parenthood, where it looks like states are going to have the right to choose whether or not abortion is legal within their states. Yeah, with that being said, I don't really want to go first. So,
well, I heard a former Republican congresswoman speak about this, and I think I texted you guys like while I was listening to her comments. She said something we said before. How can this pro-life group be the same group that was talking about freedom, liberties, and masks, right? Yep. And just the hypocrisy in the GOP. The bigger issue for me is not that part. It's more or less the dysfunction of the Supreme Court. It's only had, in my recollection, there's only been a few good decisions in the Supreme Court that picked up the slack from crappy legislation of states and civil rights.
Brown versus the Board of Education.
There's a handful. I'm not an attorney, but I think Roe versus Wade has always been a Band-Aid. Like, to be quite honest with you.
Absolutely.
I will also say that the conservative viewpoint on abortion has been a political toy for like well over 50 years because they couldn't keep black people out of schools. That was the fundamental shift in our national politics. It went from segregation to abortion. So I don't even think it's an argument, but I do believe that it should be somebody's choice of what they do. I don't have to necessarily agree or disagree with what they do.
Right, that's not the point.
I do think that my only standpoint is I think that abortion should not be a form of birth control. That's it.
Agreed. But ultimately, like you said, like it's an individual's choice, right? Yep. Like that is up to them and the impact. Like they get to weigh the decisions, just like people who didn't want to wear masks or who didn't want to get vaccinated had the opportunity to weigh the risks and the benefits and everything that went along with it and make that choice on their own. Like, you know, ultimately, I mean, and like, obviously, abortion is not the same as, like, putting on a mask in most cases, right? I mean...
You'd think it is.
Well, I was going to say, like, there are... I mean, look, there's the potential that you could draw some parallels there in that, like, you don't wear a mask, you are potentially taking somebody else's life because you've now infected them with a virus that ultimately kills them. Like I personally, like I lost my grandma 2 years ago at the end of 2020 because she had to be put into an assisted living facility. One of the staff brought, COVID into the assisted living facility. She went to the hospital with COVID and eventually died from complications resulting from COVID. Like I think it was pneumonia and a number of other, things like that had kind of built up to the point where there was nothing that they could do for her. Right. And this was well before we had a vaccine or any real like treatments that were readily available to anybody. And so, like in that regard, I can kind of see where you could say like, yeah, okay, wearing a mask could potentially take a life, just like choosing to get an abortion is ultimately like, choosing to take a life. But that being said, I still think that it is a person's choice. It is up to them whether or not that's something that they want to do. The fact that across the board, these GOP states are either already enacting or ready to enact laws that would have absolutely no exceptions for rapes, incest, like any of these extenuating circumstances, and force women to give birth to carry to full term these children and then be completely unresponsible for it at that point. You know, there's no free healthcare, or there's no, you know, efficient and affordable childcare. There's no healthcare. There's no, you know, any of this stuff that goes along with what it actually takes to bring a child into this world and to raise them to be a successful, functioning member of society. They're perfectly fine with anything and everything happening to that child after that point.
The one thing you missed out of your statement was, it's not like to have the opportunity to, or the choice, opportunity and or choice to be a functional, contributing member to society. That is, I'm trying to look at it outside of the partisan debate, right? And trying to be as neutral as I can possibly be. I don't think there's an out. I think that what's going to conspire or transpire because of this decision, if it's the one they actually present,
right?
They may get scared shitless and decide that we don't want to.
Yeah, this is a boat we don't want to rock. Ultimately,
yeah, we don't want to strike down the court's decision, or we want to strike down the court's decision in Mississippi. That's what they're weighing this against. Because as I've said before, there's probably not a lot of mathematical reasons why there is a heavy GOP presence in some of the states that we're talking about.
Right.
They're except for gerrymandering. But I can almost guarantee you this. If the Supreme Court passes this law, this will be the oh shit moment that Democrats have probably been waiting for. Like, regardless of how people feel about our president, they have actually gotten pretty lucky. This could be the next lucky one where they're gonna have an opportunity to keep the House, keep Congress, and hopefully keep some campaign promises. But if this does pass, that's it. That just puts a nail in the coffin for like national races and Republicans. If this does pass, it may strengthen states that are, I guess the term is purple, and make them more blue. Now, the states that are like completely gerrymandered up, that's going to be a longer fight. But this could be the nail in the coffin for the GOP. Now, the MAGA party, I don't know. But the GOP in general, this could kill them. I don't think anybody in the GOP, they're not talking about this. They're talking about the leak.
Yeah.
They don't give a crap about the potential of what could happen with the Supreme Court.
Well, they're trying to draw attention away from it, ultimately, right? Like, I think that's the GOP's standpoint on this. Is it's like, no, let's not focus on what the decision is or what it might be. Let's focus on why we're hearing about this at all. Like, the idea that they want the Supreme Court to basically be... First of all, this is our government.
This is our government. Why shouldn't we hear about it?
That's exactly where I was going with it. So thank you. The fact that they want this to be some like secret, you know, behind closed doors meeting where they get to decide, these 9 people get to decide exactly what it is with no feedback or input from anybody else on any of this stuff. And I do understand that to some degree, like, that's what we have created the Supreme Court to become, right? As like the arbiter of these massive decisions. Sure. And we just have to go with whatever it is that they want to do, or whatever it is that they decide. And yet, when given the opportunity, Democrats, how many times over the last 50 years since Roe v. Wade was ruled on, have Democrats but controlled the Senate, the House, and the presidency?
I'd say 4.
Okay, that's 4 opportunities that they missed to codify Roe v. Wade or abortion's rights, women's rights, into law, and instead sat on the laurels of winning a Supreme Court case. For what? For why?
Because we've let our elected officials become and morph into an elected class.
It's something that ultimately isn't going to impact them, right?
No,
GOP senators from red states will fly their mistresses or whoever it is to states that have abortion available to get an abortion. Sure. And will essentially be exempt from any laws that even would allow them to be prosecuted which is stuff that I don't want to get into the fear mongering of what could be. Like I'm struggling mightily with that right now, because there is a lot of this, like, well, if they're going to do this, then they're going to take away, you know, like, what was it, Louisiana, I think, has a law now that is ready to pass, or going to the, maybe it wasn't Louisiana, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong on this, but that would essentially outlaw in vitro fertilization. Why? Why? Is the argument that if God didn't want you to have a child, you shouldn't get to have a child? So that those people can adopt other people's children, but they can't create their own?
But these are the same people that don't adopt.
Right.
Like,
oh,
so,
yeah. I mean, I understand that. It's like...
So I'm actually at a loss on this argument of pro-life. Like, I'm not pro-life. I'm just pro don't be stupid. Pro-life means nothing to me because we have police officers that can kill people at will. We have pharmaceutical companies that are not held to account for the overdosing of America.
You have the death penalty.
We have the death penalty.
And yet,
you know, actually,
those
I
are
literally
almost...
heard somebody from Oklahoma say that for rape, the person should love the kid and they're going to kill the person that raped her.
Yeah.
Because they have capital punishment in Oklahoma.
And that's okay.
Wait a minute.
We
You're
can kill the
pro-life.
rapist, but she can't get an abortion, and she has to literally have a living reminder of that rape around her at all times. Or has to give it up for adoption and know to some degree that that child has a really good chance of having a really crappy life. Like, he probably has a crappy life. He or she has a crappy life anyways.
But we're looking at. But I do believe in the argument of we're not trying to solve the root cause, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot of things that, you know, could lead to an unplanned pregnancy, but there's also things that are unmitigated, such as, like, it could be a health issue, it could be rape, it could be incest, but we're all focused on a vast majority of the abortions don't happen to the latter. It happens to the former. And it's like, it's people that live in underserved communities where they're lower income, where they're, you know, there aren't a lot of opportunities. It's not going to affect the middle and upper middle class people of this country.
Less access to birth control, less access to sex education, or at least like decent sex education, right? I mean, like, you have PE teachers that are responsible for teaching, and I'm not saying PE teachers are bad people. I'm just saying that, like, you know, when it you can have a PE teacher who's perfectly qualified to teach sex ed, but I'm just saying, like, not all of them are. That
you have a teacher like the one in I think it was West Virginia that just got arrested for taking nude photos of the students in the locker room.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of things broken with what we call our preventative measures in our society. I think the Supreme Court is just. This is a hard thing to say. I find it very hard for us to sit here as a country and indict, like, countries that we have that there are opposition. Yeah. We have the same problems. I really find it very, and I'm not saying any names. I'm just saying, like, when you sit back and sit on the bench and watch and say, but we kind of do the same thing as a country. Like, how can we throw all these stones? I'm not saying what they're doing is right, but low key, we're doing the same stuff.
So how can, like, exactly? It's not that what they're doing is right. It's that we are doing the same wrong shit. Right? I mean,
pick your poison, right? I don't think abortion is like I don't. It's not my decision. It's not. I'm not part of the two people that are having that child.
Right.
And I'll be honest.
And neither is the Supreme Court, just to be clear.
Right.
Or any GOP senator.
I don't, unless the man is solely not participating in that decision. It's nobody else's business. Like, it's their conversation. And I don't think a woman should be. I don't personally believe that a woman or a man, like, singularly, without both deciding what the outcome should be. I think that's wrong also. But we never talk about that.
No, we don't. We rarely hear anything about that, and that's a tricky one. I will admit. Like, granted, okay, we are two and maybe a third. I don't know. Joe hasn't participated much in this conversation. So.
I'm letting you guys talk because for me it's a no-brainer. It's if there's any discussion that would hurt another party for the benefit of another party's ego, that's corruption. Like there's no reason that should even be allowed. This shouldn't even be a discussion. If you have a problem with it, take that up on your own personal time. Don't force other people to conform to it. If abortion became a legal and state-funded thing across the board, it wouldn't drastically change much, other than you'll see a slight initial spark of actual reported abortions versus illegally non-reported abortions.
Right.
And so I'm like, just get over your whether you're religious, whether you're political, whatever. Just because you feel like it shouldn't be legalized doesn't mean it has any impact on you. You would still wake up the next morning thinking, I don't need an abortion. I don't even need to think about it. Yep. But the people who do need an abortion for health reasons, for mental reasons, for financial reasons, they need access to that ability so that you won't cause future generational disparity. As much as people don't want to agree to this, having one kid at the worst possible, at a bad time in your life could keep you in that uncomfortable environment going forward.
There are some parts of that argument I disagree with. Like, I don't think having a child, even if you're it's not a financial decision. Like you do the deed, right? Like, and you've done the deed without any type. There's a lot of nuance to that conversation, and I think it's very
exactly.
That's part of the problem, ultimately, right?
Yeah, and I think
it's not a straightforward A/B conversation. Like, it's not.
But I think it's because people get too mixed up in that nuance that they forget that it really doesn't impact everybody. It's going to impact a percentage of the populace more beneficial than not, because there's a judgmental viewpoint thinking that, now that we legalize abortions,
everybody's going to get an abortion.
Yeah, so and so is going to club, not use protection, get pregnant, get abortion. Like, there will be a very small percentage of people that do that, but I hate to tell you the truth on this. It's not like you can get 1,000 abortions done to you in a lifetime. Your body will eventually degrade to the point where you can't physically have that happen anymore.
And I don't.
So,
I wish that the conversation was had in its entirety as opposed to the sound bites, right? Because I think that is the part where a lot of people just don't want it. They don't feel comfortable having the conversation. Like, I'm 100% okay saying, having kids, even when you have a job and things are okay, it's expensive.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
But do you get an abortion because having a child's expensive? It's expensive at any point in your life, right? But you can make it work. Like, I made it work, So I wouldn't agree with that part of the argument. I wouldn't say that. Like, there's a lot of things about the conversation that we're just not talking about. Where I'm not saying ban abortions. I'm saying, we're not having the conversation in its entirety. Like, I know people that have had to, where somebody decided they were going to get an abortion and the other person wasn't okay with that. So that's not right. That's not fair. That's not consent. That's a bias. I also feel that, we shouldn't take away a woman's right, but we should also not take away, if there's two people that cause that baby to get, to come into existence, we can't eliminate the other person's rights either. There's a lot of nuance, and I don't have an answer to a lot of it. And I'm just saying, if it happens, if the Supreme Court decides this is the path they want to take, all it does is accelerate, the demise of the Republican Party. That's literally all that will do. There will be some states standing that will be solely red, BS, conservative, whatever, bullshit states, and people are going to leave those states. It's just going to happen. What's going to happen when nobody really wants to go to Mississippi? Literally, for all the right reasons.
Who wants to go to Mississippi now?
It's a welfare state anyway. When nobody wants to go to Alabama, It's a welfare state anyway. When nobody wants to go to West Virginia, it's a welfare state anyway.
I don't know. I struggle with that argument only because I think that there's a lot of people who would like to leave but don't necessarily have the means to do so.
Sure. I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that over time, those welfare states will eat themselves. It was shocking to me to hear another Democratic governor having to fight with his Republican state house. And I can't remember which state it was. Gosh, it's a southern state. But I'm like, how does this keep happening? You know, like the whole state doesn't want to deal with that. Obviously, because they keep
Right.
electing Democratic governors, but they get strangled by this minority ruling party.
So like we've talked about that a bunch, and not to get completely off the subject, but I had the same thought, or was thinking along those lines and wondering, but then how do we end up with like North Carolina having 2 Republican senators, right? Like that's not done by gerrymandering. That's not done.
Yeah,
That's just, it is?
Have you looked at the districts? Yeah.
Well, no, what I'm talking about, senators, U.S. senators. They don't represent a specific district. They represent the state.
Yeah, but they get elected because of gerrymandering.
Is there an electoral college kind of thing done that's at the state level that I'm missing?
The way those districts are cut up, they're cut up to always lean Republican. No matter how you...
But I thought that U.S. senators voted within the states were done by popular vote within the state, not by districts.
No, they represent a certain part of the...
No, that's House of Representatives.
Let me fact check myself.
Which I do understand. But that's what I'm saying. Like the 2 U.S. senators that are elected for each state to the Senate.
I think every state has their own rules of how they select senators.
Okay. And maybe that's my confusion. But like North Carolina is one of those where we have 2 Republican senators, right?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure North Carolina is because of gerrymandering. I'm almost pretty confident.
Definitely.
Well, I know
because I believe the way they cut up the voting districts, it's to almost always lean Republican.
Like I'm in Southport, and where I have to go to Carolina Beach to vote.
Really?
Bullshit.
I don't know how far away that is.
For local politics, I have to take a ferry across the Cape Fear River.
Okay, so the 17th Amendment to the Constitution requires senators to be elected by a direct vote of those she or he will represent. Election winners are decided by the plurality rule, that is, the person who receives the highest number of votes wins. In some states, this may not necessarily be the majority of the votes.
Right. I think North Carolina is one of those.
Well, no, but that's still saying that it's by the number of votes. It's not by the number of districts that they win. That it's ultimately like if there's 15 million people that live in North Carolina, or however many, and 8 million vote for one guy and 7 million vote for the other, the guy who got 8 million is going to be the senator. One of the senators.
That's a good question.
To me, what it points to is that people don't vote straight ticket the way that most people think that they do. And that they do ultimately want like some level of checks and balances as they see it. So they'll vote for a Democratic governor. But at the federal level, they want a conservative person to be voting in terms of like how the federal government is spending our money and whatnot.
Well, 50% of the country is non-affiliated.
Yeah.
So that makes complete and total sense. But I also think that there's some I have to look into it. Maybe that may be my homework. But there has to be something that, because we've had Democrats run for U.S. Senate in this state, but they never win.
Right. It's weird.
They wholly never win.
And we've had Democratic, state congresses, right? Like we've had.
Unless you're telling me that 95 of the counties in the state are red, and that could be true if you look at the 2020 election. Yeah, that could very well be true, because you take.
But even then, you still end up with a Democratic governor, right, who is elected again by popular vote within the state. It's not done by district.
Oh, that's. Yeah, I mean,
it's
a
weird.
Good question.
That's all I'm asking. On the representative side, yes, wholeheartedly, like it is gerrymandering at the state level and at the federal level. Like that is how the GOP lately has gotten control, and it's how Democrats had control of North Carolina for a long time. Like not a long time, but when they did, because the people who were in control were ultimately the ones who got to draw the maps. Unless you're in Florida, in which case you just say, "Hey, Mr. DeSantis, Governor, would you please draw our maps for us? We're too stupid to do it ourselves."
Oh man!
And he goes, "Ha ha, sure, I do that, kids. Sure, I'm Mickey Mouse." Sorry. Anyways, a couple of other things that came to mind about this.
He said Mickey Mouse.
So there have been so many calls for two things to happen at the federal level now from people on the left, right? One is to now finally get around to passing women's rights, right? Women's privacy rights or whatever you want to call it, to codify what was Roe v. Wade into law. As I pointed out before, or as we pointed out before, you've had like at least 4 opportunities to do that in the past and chose not to. Not like you did it and it got turned down or voted down or whatever it is, but it was just like, no, we're not going to do that. We have more important things to worry about. Nobody's ever going to overturn Roe v. Wade. It's a Supreme Court decision. Well, look where we are now. 2, they're calling for an expansion of the Supreme Court of the United States. Put more liberal justices up there while Biden's still in office, and then we can finally beat the conservatives. Okay, you don't have the votes to do that. So how are you going to do that? It's like end the filibuster to pass legislation. You don't have the votes to do that. So how are you? I got in a Twitter argument with somebody about this, and they're like, I don't like the both sides of this. And I'm like, it's not both sidesing. I'm pointing out a logical flaw in your, well, I guess we just can't hope for anything. You can hope all you want, but
That's
the point
why you voted
is,
for a Democrat, because
Yeah.
you like to hope.
but the point is, hoping isn't going to get shit done. Like what you are arguing for, what you want to have happen is not feasibly going to happen because you do not have, because 2 of your Democratic senators aren't voting Democratic, and they've already said.
So here's the problem. Here's actually the hope. You know what should happen?
Revolution!
Let the Supreme Court decide with Mississippi.
Yeah.
And let's see how serious people are about literally getting people on the ticket that represent their values and their principles. Like, not just because they're outraged.
Yeah.
They should be.
Well, yeah.
But let it happen. And then let's see what happens. Do we have does Joe Manchin get primary? I mean, there's a couple Senate seats right now.
Yep.
It's a long time till November.
It is.
And you know what? If I was serious about trying to fix this problem, you know what I wouldn't need to worry about? Is funding for a campaign. I would just put Chris on the ballot.
Oh, thank you.
And I would do, like, literally, like, try to get
Is that because I'm a white guy?
Yeah.
You would go to see.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
But you see my point? Like, because we have this stupid philosophy right now that I need to raise campaign funds.
Yeah.
If I get one more email about I need funds to do this,
Yep.
I've unsubscribed from every single one of them.
Yeah.
I will never, ever, 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 ever probably donate to any, like, especially the Democrats again, because somehow I end up on this endless chain of emails.
Yeah.
Like, I just won't. I just like, you guys figure it out. You don't need money to, like, you should be on the ballot. Bah. I don't need to do all that. So if the Supreme Court does vote and support Mississippi's decision, let's see what happens. Like, seriously.
I hear what you're saying. I do.
I'm going for the nuclear option.
I guess my concern, where my head goes with that, is how many people get hurt in the process, right? And maybe there's nothing that can be done about it.
And I'm
right?
an asshole because I have Cuban
I'm not
friends,
saying you're
and
an asshole.
I've always told them I don't understand the whole Castro thing, because I find it very hard to believe that Americans wouldn't, like, some people. It's kind of like Ukraine. People are dying in Ukraine trying to protect their country, right? I am a firm believer in like if things sort of get so bad in this country that there'd be people that were willing to die to keep this dream somewhat alive.
I only laugh because I think the problem is they're on the wrong side.
Yeah.
You're probably not wrong. I mean,
all the assholes with guns tend to be voting the other way.
but who do you think gets? I mean, think about Russia's chessboard, right? There are probably a lot of populist people in Russia that are getting sacrificed, like literal pawns, just because. And there have been rumblings that there's been some dissent in Russia.
Well, yeah, that's
so
why Putin
I'm thinking
keeps
eventually
swapping out his Secret Service like every 3 weeks.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that I don't disagree that the MAGA movement is like they're capitalizing and they're manipulating people.
Yeah.
But the minute that they stop getting deceived, that's a boomerang supposed to come back to you. When that one comes back to you, you're going to be hurting.
I hear that too. I'm again, like, my concern is, what if they don't stop being deceived? What if these people just want to believe the lie and are, because so far that seems to be the case, that they are so wrapped up in what the end goal is that they will justify the means all day long.
Well, somebody tell me what the end goal is, because I still don't know what it is.
Well, it's
right?
to get the things that they want in place, to
What
get rid of abortions, to make sure that Dems don't come take your guns, to... Like, these are the things that seem to be at the top of their list, and they don't want.
Saying is like, what's the point of that? Like, what is their end goal? What is their envision? What are they envisioning for the future of America?
That white people stay in control.
In control of what?
But
in control of the country.
They're already in control.
So here's the thing that
but
that
they're
whole
worried
white,
that's not going to be
dream,
that case.
That dream is so short-sighted.
It is,
right?
I mean, I'm not saying it's the right dream, just to be clear. Like, I'm cool with white people not being in control.
I'm saying the reason why that is so short-sighted is because as every minute that goes on, every country on this planet moves away from manual labor. The race that we're fighting has nothing to do with who builds a better car. It's technology.
Okay.
Like, all our markets are going to be so, like, the old America of building Fords and Chevys and Dodges is gone. And people that are holding on to that dream, they're the ones that are killing our country.
I don't disagree.
The ones that think that is coming back are idiots.
You're not bringing manufacturing full-time back to the United States. Like, you'll have small companies here and there. But I love it. Like, I say I love it. I hear this commercial on the radio down here all the time for steel, lawn, and like they make chainsaws and all that stuff. STIHL, I think.
Yeah, they make really shitty chainsaws that are not reliable at a fire scene.
So they talk about how...
I throw that out there.
Yeah, no, you're good. I appreciate the feedback. I won't buy one of them. But they have this commercial where they talk about, why aren't our products sold in Lowe's and Home Depot? Well, ask the, X number of people that we have working in our factories in Virginia. And then it's like talking about how it's made in America. And then at the end, it has a little caveat that's like, steel products are made or manufactured or assembled in America from foreign parts and stuff like that. So basically they outsource all of the foreign steel and everything. They bring it here, and then they have a couple of people put it all together. And that's supposed to be American made.
And then they put the big patriotic sticker on it, and they get government incentives to be able to sell it to fire departments for a really good price.
Yeah.
And those fire departments get those products, and we try to use them on a fire scene, and they fucking rip.
Yeah.
You ever had a chainsaw just fall apart on you when you're trying to cut a wall down?
Yeah.
I looked at this, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Give me a Milwaukee. Give me something.
I don't care where it's made. Give me something that works, right? Like, I need something that gets the job done. This is one of my favorite things that I learned most recently. I see the Toyota Tundras driving around all the times that have the American flag in the Tundra, right? And I was like, what is this? It's a Japanese company. They got the American flag all over it.
Saying that it was manufactured in...
The Tundra is the most American-made truck in this country. more than Ford F-150s, more than the Chevy whatever piece of shit they make. Silverado, more than GMC, more than Dodge. When it comes to the raw sourcing of materials, the assembly of it, and all of that stuff, the Tundra is the #1 most American-made truck.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby!
I can't help but put that evil on you, Ricky Bobby. Like,
this is what, arguably the most
how
reliable,
fucking sad is that we've gotten to a point where our American car manufacturers don't buy American-made shit. And we wonder why this country is falling apart. When that's all people, well, we got to bring manufacturing back. The companies that are based in this country don't want to manufacture here.
So let me add to that. So my grandfather,
so you got shitty workforce.
My grandfather's got a couple degrees in engineering and all that, so he's a very intelligent guy on paper. Horrible conversationalist, but when he's drunk, he tells you a lot about his history.
Yeah.
He helped design some of the backbone parts of what makes Carrier, Carrier air products, air conditions, what makes them work. Like, he designed the intakes and the cooling system and all that.
Real quick aside, Andre, is your air conditioner a Carrier?
No.
Okay, Joe, continue.
I was like, really? That's the guy I need to come in and beat up?
He was an engineer, and he was paid to design, to basically how they would work is they would import other countries' products, take it apart, figure out how it worked, and make a better version of that.
Yeah.
It's not illegal, it's shady as shit, but
it's called reverse engineering. Everybody does it.
Yeah. But he I think in the 70s, after working there for 19 years, they brought over, out of nowhere, just brought over a handful of Japanese guys. Mm-hmm. And they're like, Ed, teach them how you do your stuff.
Yep.
And he's like, what? He's like, teach them how you do your job, all of it, from start to finish. And he's like, you got 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks afterwards, well, not even 2 weeks, half the damn crew quit.
2 week notice.
Yeah, half the crew quit because they knew what was coming. And they, he was a lead engineer, so he knew he wasn't going to be fired or anything. But after 2 weeks, they're like, okay, let you know ahead of time, we're moving our entire facility to Japan because it's cheaper to manufacture Carrier products there and export them back to the United States.
Yep.
And they gave him the option to move to Japan. And he was like, I already moved from one country once, I'm not doing it twice.
Yeah.
So that's why we see, it's not something that's new. Those companies have been gone.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people nowadays, they're just now realizing it. They're now seeing those stickers saying "Assemble United States," but from China.
Yeah. But can I just give you just one Andreism? Who cares?
Andreism.
No, right? I agree. Ultimately, who gives a shit where the stuff is made, right?
Yeah, if the evolution of industry means that you let go of past technology and you move to something new, I'd rather be at the forefront as opposed to holding on to a stale dream. And that's the part where, if we were smart as a country, if we were smart as states, cities, counties, we would be thinking hey, what's the next wave, right? Why aren't we looking at trying to...
What's our next focus? What's our national focus?
In business, if you're thinking about how great you were last year,
you're
screwed. Your P&L was good for last year. It's not good for this year. And that's the part where it's look, I get it. The idea and the hope and dream of expanding the court is stupid on so many levels.
Yes. Not only do you not have the votes now, but the moment that you do that, you have now, you've now given the GOP the opportunity, should they ever win back control of the Senate, to do the exact same thing and say, well, we're adding 10 more justices now. Right?
But, the argument with the Supreme Court is this for me. Your law is filled with flaws. That's why it makes it pass. That's why it makes it up the circuit to get to the Supreme Court. So write better laws. That is the...
I hear what you're saying, but then now you've gotten to a point where you have a law that is filled with flaws that is supposedly going to be passed by a Supreme Court because you let a clown in a monkey suit put 3 justices up there.
Talking about clowns now?
But they're
Yeah, I know.
your
Sorry.
opponent is only human. That's it.
Okay.
That's the problem I have. It's like,
Okay, I agree with that. At the end of the day, they're all people, right?
Yeah,
This is
the
not
Supreme-
some magic group of people that know better than all the rest of us, right? They're supposed to be, well versed in Constitution and law and all of those things, so that they are
Actually, the
better.
only requirement is law.
Okay, but the Constitution is often part of that, right? I mean, like, you have to have
Sure.
some basic foundation of the Constitution in order to
Right.
understand the laws of this country. And in a lot of cases, the Supreme Court decides constitutionality more than anything.
The reason I said that is because I believe the last 3 justices, aside from Judge Jackson, are not constitutional attorneys.
No, you're absolutely right. They're basically they're some of them are hardly attorneys at all.
Right. Well,
And I know that you don't want to argue about the qualifications, and I get that. I think the other thing that I would like to just come to bring up, because I thought this was kind of an interesting thing. You had the last 3 justices that were nominated and elected to the Supreme Court. Is it elected? Yes.
Nominated.
You get nominated, but then you get elected, right?
No, you don't get elected because
you get confirmed to the Supreme Court. Besides Judge Jackson, Judge Brown. Brown Jackson.
Todd G. Brown Jackson.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All 3 of them sat there under oath and testified when asked that Roe v. Wade was essentially settled law, and there was no reason for that to be overturned. And now
that is inaccurate.
Okay.
If you listen to the questions, if you listen to the responses,
So they gave him a loophole.
Yes.
Okay.
If you listen to the responses, they did not confirm one way or the other where they would land on that question if presented to the court.
Okay. Well, then I
And
rescind my point.
And everybody that reports on that is stupid. CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS.
Who has 2 thumbs and feels stupid right now?
None of their answers, and I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you, like, right now, like, game recognized game.
But you play one.
They
on TV.
They did not give a definitive answer on how they would decide if that was presented in the court. Not one of them.
Is part of the problem that we have too many lawyers running this country?
That could be part of it. Just like we have too many upper class people in journalism. Because it's like, at the end of the day, if you are asking a bunch of people who understand how to skirt the law to make laws, then you're screwed.
They're making laws that can then be skirted in the way that they want.
Well, I mean, there's...
So now we need to make super lawyers to combat the lawyers. What could go wrong? They become self-aware.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Shall we play a game?
Oh.
Which side do you want?
I'm on a mission.
What mission?
Peace in our time.
Yeah, if they become self-aware, they would actually probably all just resign.
The only way to defend this country is to destroy the country.
Yeah, my problem with the Ultron robots
Death Star logic
is that to expand the court is to make the court that much more ineffective. The only way to beat the Supreme Court is to write good laws.
Yes.
The only way to write good laws is to get involved with who's actually presenting laws to get passed in your state.
Right.
The only way to get people, I mean, and again, I go down this rabbit hole.
No. This is great.
The only way to get people that are going to present laws in your state that are that represent the people is to stop with the partisan BS. It doesn't make sense that most places in this country, especially in metro areas, are more than 50% nonpartisan. In the middle of the middle of the road, unfortunately, for some people, is socially moderate and fiscally conservative. It's a very rare thing to find in this country where it's the other way around.
Fiscally
the social
moderate
issues
and
that
socially conservative.
I'm sorry? Yeah, it's very rare.
Yeah.
Not even New York is like that progressive with
I don't
their
care how
finances.
much money we have to spend. Get rid of the gays.
Yeah. I mean, not even California. And California is, in and of itself, has the economy of a country. So my point being is that we continue to. I almost want the Supreme Court to rule in favor of Mississippi to see what really happens. Right? Let's go to the nuclear option. What happens if they do? That is a real question to ask this country.
I mean, yeah.
Well, what if they do?
You're already seeing a response, right? Based on the potential of them ruling this way. From a lot of people.
You know how I feel about bluffers? I'm talking to you, John Oliver. Right?
Go ahead.
I told you he wasn't going to do anything, right?
No, I mean, so far you are right.
Like, if you're gonna have all the cookies, and I'm not trying, like, I don't know John Oliver. I'm just saying, like.
No, but I like your play on words there because he literally has the cookies. Literally.
He has all the cookies, but he does nothing with it. So, the question I would ask is, it's not a question. It's like, say I won't, right? It's something I would say to. Say I won't. If I told you I'm going to slap you in the face if you said X again, what do you think is going to happen if you say X again? I'm going to slap you in the face.
No,
I'm not going to
bluffing.
bluff. Right? Yeah, bluff. Yeah, think I'm bluffing. Say I won't. And that's what this country maybe this country needs a say I won't moment. We had it with Donald Trump. And we keep playing with that fire consistently. We have it with, this is like, there have been some historians and some pundits who know more about like political history than I do that have said that our democracy is on its last legs. The threads of our democracy are falling apart.
Right.
I'm starting to believe they're not wrong. Mm-hmm. We play with authoritarianism. We play with like this populist idea. Yep. Populism has surged in the last 12 years.
Everywhere, by the way, not just, and I shouldn't say everywhere,
here.
But across the globe, it's become more and more popular.
Yeah, France just had a nail-biting election. Yeah, right. Macron,
and now he's on the hot seat because I'm sure you read that the left-wing group, because he's very centrist, like center kind of moderate. That the left-wing parties have all now signed a pact where they're basically like, we're going to take on Macron. We're tired of him playing to both sides.
Well, the reality is you can't have an extreme in leadership.
What, you're going to vacillate back and forth like we've been doing here in the United States, and what does it get you?
That's a good word.
I know. My expansive vocabulary got me in trouble on Twitter recently.
Yeah, somebody called him soft on Twitter.
Yeah, because I know big words.
Yeah, freaking idiot.
So basically, even the worst fisting still needs lube?
Yeah, you got to vacillate that.
Yeah.
Y'all got to stop doing that gay shit.
Fisting isn't gay. You can fist a woman.
You can fist yourself.
Yeah. That's just masturbation.
So my point being is...
this is exploration, sir.
My point being is, like, I think that this country, I think we're playing with the wrong we're not decisive enough to decide what we're trying to do, and we're letting the fringe on both sides dictate the party.
Because there isn't a party for the rest of us, I think is part of it, right? Like the Democrats.
How so? Biden's going to raise $50,000 worth of.
No, he's not. He said he's not going to do that. He's already said he's not going to do that. But that's what I'm saying, is that there isn't a middle of the road, and not like we cater to all sides, but there isn't somebody representing the independents. You
Right.
have to choose ultimately, and that's what they want you to believe, is that you have to choose. And this is not like a go vote for Jill Stein, go vote for Gary Johnson.
Yeah,
like those people are no
weird.
better than the rest of these. My point is that there is no real representative of the majority of this country in our political system. And I think it's exactly what you're saying, is that we have allowed the extremes to dictate what it is that is and isn't allowed in our country one way or the other. And what that's done is it's left most of us feeling completely unrepresented, completely out of the loop, and to some degree, like, what's the point? Right? What's the point of me participating in this if ultimately the people I vote for aren't going to do the things that either they say they're going to do or that I want them to do?
Well, again, we got to. I mean, we have to step back and make better decisions, and that's
I agree.
the problem.
And I think we have to get more involved. Right? It's not
I don't,
about.
I don't know how much more involved we can be in, because here's my
you can
problem.
run for
with that.
office
Sure. Okay. You're right.
as an
You don't
independent.
need office.
That's fair. The mayor of Apex is an independent. I saw him in the grocery store. We were talking, and that's one of the things that he said was very important to him. He did not want to be affiliated with a party.
That's great. Why? Why would you want to be at this point? You're hamstringing yourself. Other than the financial implications, right?
The financial implications are insanely stupid.
Yes.
There are two things that I think that would fix our political. Actually, yeah, two. They may unsurface other problems. I think there should be term limits, number one, and I think that campaign finance is.
It's way out of control.
I think it's how you buy politicians now.
Yes.
The fact that it takes a little bit over $1 million to become a U.S. senator.
I think it
is
takes way more
insane.
than that to be a U.S. senator.
Possibly.
It probably costs you $1 million to be a mayor of a semi-decent sized city.
And that's
Do you have any
ridiculous.
idea how much those yard signs cost? They're like $20 a piece. I'm serious. I looked at that because I wanted to put up a bunch of Chris and Andre show yard signs alongside all of the political ones that are up here in Wilmington now. And I was like, holy shit, I can't afford that.
We should like figure that out. I mean, I've seen. This is how it's insane. I saw a Bo Hines sign in red, and I saw one in blue.
Yeah.
Talk about manipulate. I don't have a solution to the system. I do believe there are things that we can do. Like, we control these. Stop. Like, if the candidate that you believe is the right answer answers all your questions, you should question that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
If he or she like connects to all your quote unquote fears, you should question that.
AKA talking points. Right? I mean, that's what it boils down to. Like, your fears are their talking points.
Yeah.
What are you afraid of? Oh, I have the answer for that. This is how we're going to fix that.
Yeah, and to quote Homeboy from the original Blade Runner, if you're afraid, you're a slave.
That's a good saying, but fear is actually a pretty good human emotion to have.
It's all you ever think about.
Yeah, it
I
can
can walk
like,
into an airport and you roll your eyes at me.
The problem that you run into with fear is that it is now being manipulated to get you to do the things that they want you to do. And this is not like some massive conspiracy. I think we all recognize this on a daily basis. That
Yeah, they make jokes about it.
Yeah, I mean, shit, you look at 9/11, right? Like, I always kind of come back to this because I feel like to some degree it was a bit of an inflection point in this country. Not, like, for a lot of different reasons, but in one way, we all became afraid of the same thing, right? Being on an airplane that was taken over by hijackers. Maybe not all of us, because not everybody flies, but a lot of us sat there and said, like, shit, I don't want to be on that airplane. Like, I don't want my loved one to be on that airplane. I don't want to be in the building that airplane eventually crashes into. So I'm willing to allow the government to read through all my emails and to spy on me and to my neighbors and all that stuff if it means that that's going to protect me or somebody that I love from having that happen to them. I'm willing to take off my shoes, travel with no liquids or a very limited amount of liquids through the airport, pat down screenings, extremely invasive, machines and all this stuff, bomb and drug sniffing dogs everywhere. just so that I
Drug-sniffing
feel
bomb.
safe getting on drug sniffing bombs on an airport or on an airplane. Like those are the things that we gave up when that all happened. I mean, we allowed our country to go to war in a country that wasn't even the source of the people that did that to us immediately afterwards, because it was like, well, shit, maybe that's going to make us safer. Maybe I won't have to be afraid anymore.
So history tells us that's not the first time it happened.
No, and it won't be the last either.
If you go back to
why do you think
World War
everybody's so
II.
afraid of Russia and all the shit that's going on right now, right? When you talk about World War II, like that's what it is. It's this fear machine that it's like, oh God, if Russia takes Ukraine, Germany's next, and then it's going to be France.
You know what,
and then,
man? I'm sorry. God, I want to say this. I can't.
Sure.
I can't because the way I want to say it is the right
So
way
I
to
know,
say
and then we'll delete it from the show.
says the guy who doesn't edit the episodes.
Just looking out for it, man, that's all. Freedom of speech.
I really do believe that this is not conspiracy stuff. Every country in the West did a complete about face when it came to Ukraine.
Yes.
And you see there are still countries that are digging their heels in. And if we really, 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 really wanted to end this whole Ukraine conversation, guess what we could do? We could do it.
Ukraine?
Do you think that Russia... Do you think Russia...
still want it, Russia?
Wants smoke with NATO?
No. Obviously. Look how poorly things have gone for them against the Ukrainians. Right?
I kind of, I mean, and I'm not saying I'm like, I mean, why is Putin chumping everybody down with nuclear armaments? Like, he's not going to pop anything off, man. There's no upside for him doing that.
No, absolutely not.
But if he does, we live in the timeline in which he will do that. Please let me watch my Marvel movies first.
What is the upside?
Oh, Joe.
Of nuking?
There's none. I mean, he doesn't win by nuking Ukraine.
Or anything.
Or anything. You launch nukes, we launch nukes back.
Yeah, we're all done, and then it's Mad Max, and we all drive some pretty dope-ass cars.
No, but think about it. Like, he doesn't get the States, right? He's going to have to go, like, European, like...
Maybe he gets Alaska.
Sure. And...
Bye, Sarah Palin.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Get Alaska back.
I can see
okay
Russia from my house here. What's that?
What's that? So there is literally no upside for Putin with nukes in Europe because he doesn't get the States. He's going to hit France, Germany, possibly. Like low key, he doesn't have the troop support to mount multiple ground assaults. If NATO really wanted to end this whole Ukraine thing, what's he gonna do? That's why I'm not president. Because I'd be like, yo, test my gangster.
Well, yeah. I mean, you said it 3 weeks ago, where it's like Obama drew a line in the sand and said, "Don't you dare go to Crimea," and he went to Crimea and he was like, "Shit, I can't do anything about that."
I still kind of feel like I don't think Russia's a threat. I don't think China's a threat.
No, but they're a really good boogeyman. That's what it boils down to, right? Like, because we grew up not with the fear of Russia, but with our parents having understood the fear of Russia, right? Or our grandparents. And so we heard the stories. We've read all about it in the history books about, the Cold War and Reagan and the Death Star. And...
I lived through the Cold War.
All right. Well, some of us are older than the rest of us. Like, I was born in 84, so it was like right kind of towards the end of the Cold War. But my point is that, like, it's something that is it's a fear that is easy to conjure up in people, right? To go back to having to do these nuclear weapons drills where we're hiding under desks, like that's going to do anything. Maybe now we can update it to locking ourselves in refrigerators, Indiana Jones style.
Well, we'll suffocate. And I'm not saying Putin's a punk. I'm just saying, like, he's bluffing, yo. Like, there's no upside.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we are going to have to call his bluff. Like that's the only end game, because we've tried all of the financial sanctions, right? Like they've basically shut off Russia from as much as they can. You have
except for his girlfriend.
Well, yeah, but you have Europe that's sitting there buying Russian oil through third parties. They can't even get away from Russian oil. They just go to other countries to buy it so that it doesn't look as bad on the books.
That's how I'll tell you that Western countries have never been broke. They never had sugar water. They never had the lights cut off. I mean, sometimes you suck it up and you just you work through it. Like the whole oil thing, it pisses me off. It's
but nobody's willing to do that, right? Like nobody.
Why not?
I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, and not nobody, but there aren't enough people who are sitting there going, no, like, we're willing to sacrifice all of that, right? We'll go back to working in factories. We'll go back to doing whatever it takes in order to make our country strong enough that they can take on and destroy whatever it is that this threat is from Putin, if that's what it ultimately takes.
Just saying, most Western countries have never been broke. It's a populace that's never been broke. I'm not saying I don't think that there's an upside for Putin for doing nuclear, and I know he knows that.
Yes,
like
that's why he keeps throwing it out there repeatedly. And yet, has he fired a single nuclear weapon yet? No.
His first target's going to be Europe.
The UN is sending in convoys to Mariupol to evacuate citizens, but they won't actually defend Ukraine. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
There's a limit to our involvedness, right?
And I'm not, look, man, if Ukraine is handling their business, I mean, I'm just saying, like, Northern Africa's had a few things go bad, and we, like, as a globe, we watch that go south.
Why do we care, right? Those
we
people
watch
don't
Central
look like
America
us.
go south. We watch South America go south. We got.
Oh my God, South America has consistently gone south.
Wait, where was South America supposed to go? North? Ba-dum-bum.
My point being is, like, at some point for Western countries, like, we are no different than the countries, and there's typically two of them that we throw stones at.
Yeah. The ones who literally stone other people.
And we get super pissed when those countries, like, give funds to, I don't know, Venezuela. We get super pissed when those countries give funds to, I don't know, Libya. But I mean, I don't know. I think it was the Prime Minister of Poland. I don't remember. He said, they're regular Europeans. When he's talking about the Ukrainians. They're just like us. That's all I need to hear, yo. Like, we watch these things, and the UN, I think it's a joke.
Yeah, it is.
I think NATO is becoming more and more of a joke. Yeah, so Ukraine, keep doing your thing. Hopefully you guys, like, I saw this story today that, and I don't have an opinion about, I don't have a negative thing to say about people from Ukraine, and I'm not trying to be a detractor for these people defending their country. But I saw a lady today, that 23-year-old nurse that had both her legs blown off, and she's missing like 4 fingers. Her and her husband, like, she got married like after surgery. And I'm thinking, like, yo, these people have a will to live. And I think that's beautiful. I just don't think the rest of the world stage is, like, really, they don't really rock with you. So, like, at some point, yeah, they're gonna get their money out of you. They're gonna squeeze that until it's dry. But
they'll gladly put a freaking Ukrainian flag sticker on their car or fly the Ukrainian flag at their house.
Because it's what's trending. It's what's trending now, dude.
That's all we can do.
Versus Harambe, now it's Ukraine.
Yep.
It's like with the Paris attacks. I can go like Sandy Hook.
Yep.
I can go down the list of things where it's like, yeah, we have a short-term memory. And I'm gonna wrap.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna wrap my point up with this. If the Supreme Court supports Mississippi's law, this is America's "say I won't" moment. And I think there's a lot of time between now and November. Yeah, don't if they don't if they don't decide something that's amicable to the people of Mississippi and they don't disrupt the lives of the rest of the country, that would be grand. But if they do, what happens next? Like, that's the question I would have. Like, yeah, this majority that the conservative justices have in the Supreme Court is probably not going to change, and it probably shouldn't change. You're focusing on the wrong things. Like, start stacking up people that can get and write laws that protect you, your families, and others around you at this local and state level. Stop waiting until stuff gets to the Supreme Court. Roe versus Wade, it's been a Band-Aid for 50 years. It might get pulled off. What are you going to do next?
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem with asking that simple question. If it does, what happens next? You're gonna keep marching? It's time to fucking stop. I don't want your thoughts and prayers. I don't want to see another fucking march. Why doesn't this country do something about the things that we say we hold true? Your thoughts and prayers are getting kids killed. Your thoughts and prayers or we watch people die. Your thoughts and prayers don't bring people back to their families. Your thoughts and prayers don't get people off drugs. Your thoughts and prayers don't keep people from getting killed at our borders, where there are some U.S. border agents that are, raping and killing people. Your thoughts and prayers are useless to me. Like, what are you going to do next? Your thoughts and prayers aren't going to keep girls and women from going to the back alleys and getting abortions. Your thoughts and prayers have nothing to do with that. If anything, they should be giving you wisdom to do the next right thing. If you're talking about thoughts and true prayers, you should be praying for wisdom. And wisdom should say, what do I do with what's presented to me?
Yeah, it's a good place to start and then move on to the actual solution. But if you just stick on thoughts and prayers, and that's self-serving, you're not really doing it to help anybody, are you? You're trying to make yourself feel better.
Yep.
I'm sending you thoughts and prayers. Your thoughts and prayers do not help people that are, we yet as a country decided to address the former of the group that will suffer the most from the Supreme Court justices. I got you moment.
Yeah.
We're, and I'm just, I'm not qualified to speak for women. I have a daughter. My daughter has friends and they're girls, but I would say, like, I would challenge people to, like, do something different. Let's figure out what's the next step. The next step should be, how do we get people that are going to represent the views and values of this country and not try to beg people that do not give a flying fuck about what you say.
Yeah.
That's a pussy move, and stop doing it. Like, you got to stop acting like Manchin cares. You got to stop acting like Sinema cares. You got to stop acting like
literally any of them. Chuck Schumer doesn't give a shit. Nancy Pelosi doesn't care.
Pelosi doesn't care. AOC doesn't care.
Like, ultimately, Joe Biden doesn't care. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad dude, but I'm just saying he doesn't care. Like, he doesn't. They don't. They don't care about you.
Yeah.
They only care about themselves. So stop acting like that's magically going to change someday.
Yeah. AOC, maybe she's tapped out. Right? Maybe she's ridden that tide to where, and I don't know AOC. I'm just saying, like, yo, you start.
I feel like
Chanel.
Like when she went to the Met Gala with the Tax the Rich dress, that was kind of the peak for her. Like that was kind of the signal. Like, I mean, she might as well have been wearing the Melania jacket that says, "I don't care, do you?"
Yep. I mean, you start rocking Chanel and some other like nice. I mean, but it's not a monetary thing.
No, it's not. But it's a question of character.
Yep.
At the end of the day, are you really doing what you said you were going to do?
Why don't we have laws lined up with people ready to sign them? Why don't we go piece by piece?
Why haven't the Democrats done anything in the last 2 years? And I mean, maybe that's harsh, but I just mean...
That goes back to my first point. Why aren't the laws lined up?
Yeah, exactly. They should have had that stuff in the wings waiting so that when... Boom, all right, and we got all 50 senators that are that we need are ready to sign off on this.
You make that public. You make that public right along with the leak from the Supreme Court.
Yep.
We had this law ready to go, and that's what you should be tweeting about. That if you're going to be tweeting, that's what you should be tweeting.
But
about.
instead,
Tweet
they're
about
going to
this-
do a farcical, show where they're going to parade some piece of legislation in front of the Senate so that they can get Republicans on record voting against it, as though that's ever impacted the people that ultimately vote for them one way or the other.
Just because you vote like a douche doesn't mean that it changes anything.
Yeah, so we're like, why did you guys miss the mark on the John Lewis Voting Act? Why did you guys miss the? There's a lot of things you missed the mark on. Why is the George Floyd bill still dead in limbo?
Yeah,
and why is Tim Scott still
so close to having very little to edit this episode? That's
and speaking of, I'm going to wrap it here because I saw this article where people his constituents in South Carolina wanted to meet with him about the confirmation of Judge Brown. He said, paraphrasing, "I'm too busy to meet with y'all, but I'll send some of my assistants to meet with you." And their response was, "We didn't vote for your assistants." My question to anybody that is out there frustrated with our political system is, stop putting these idiots in office.
Yeah.
Scour your community. Scour them for leaders, men and women of character that can do the things and represent you and your neighborhoods, your homes, your communities, your states the way they should be.
Well said.
That's all I got.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Big Rant from the Chris and Andre Show. Obviously, we had a lot of opinions on a lot of different things, kind of centered around the SCOTUS leak and, the impending overturning of Roe v. Wade, but dabbled a little bit.
And why did Politico leak that and nobody else did?
Yeah, that's fair. Also dabbling into a whole bunch of things, but ultimately, at the end of the day, these are our opinions. This is what we're thinking. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back next week with a whole new set of crazy opinions and a whole set of other options. I don't even know what I'm saying now. On a whole other set of topics. But remember that you can always catch us at chrisandandreshow.com. You can email us your thoughts at comments@chrisandandreshow.com. If you want to email me directly, you can hit me up at chris@chrisandandreshow.com, or
you can always hit me up at andre@chrisandandreshow.com.
You might still see us on Twitter for a little while longer. I keep kind of like a little while longer. I keep dabbling in there every once in a while, dipping a toe, as I like to say. But I'm kind of getting tired of it. We're also on Mastodon, so if you're looking for a social network that isn't owned by a billionaire, you can feel free to head over to the decentralized one over there. Instagram, Facebook, Chris and Andre, or Chris and Andre Show. If you search either one of those, you'll probably find us. Always thank you to Moon Knight Joe this week for joining us. Really
special occasion, man.
Special occasion, special name. I appreciate it. AKA Fireside Joe. You can catch him on TikTok at Fireside Joe, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Guys,
which
anything...
I'm happily banned for a day.
Happily banned for a day. Look at that. Yeah, you gotta go subscribe to him to find out why.
My contact was too edgy.
Why am I not surprised? Too much clown porn, I'm sure. Maybe not enough clown porn. Who knows what TikTok's after these days.
That is the problem. There's not enough comedy, not enough love.
But as always, we really appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on the videos that you like the most. As always, I'll say it twice. I'm Chris.
And I'm Andre.
And we'll see you next time.
Gosh, you got to stop doing that.
Well, I will
talk to you next time.
Sometime.
What the hell about me? Bye.
Hey guys, it's Chris from the Chris and Andre Show here. Just wanted to say thanks for checking out our show. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would, subscribe, like, make sure to hit the notification bell so you get alerts when we post new videos, and leave a comment with your favorite part of the most recent episode that you watched. We'll see you on the next one.